Welcome to another edition of the NBA show on the Earnestly podcast. I'm your host, Earnest. EJ Christian. I would guess we would say right now we are officially in the dog days of the NBA season. We've now played just a bit over half of the year. So, football's winding down and, all those things, and Super Bowl's next week. So, basketball rather, is taking a lot more focus. So, of course, we're joined here by our guy every week on the show with NBA author, analyst, Greg Hrinya with us. Greg, what's going on, brother? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I always say dog days of basketball. Sometimes people get a little weary, but there's a lot to talk about in the league right now. There's a lot of things going on. Obviously, it's been a very weird season, to say the least. And then you have this situation now that's now coming to a head. We've been teasing this thing for the last couple months on the show about the Giannis stuff in Milwaukee and what's going to happen with his future there and all that. Well, as of yesterday, the Milwaukee Bucks are now entertaining offers. They've now made that public for Giannis Antetokounmpo. For either, now the key part people forget is not just before the trade deadline. It's a trade deadline as well as the summer. So they're working on two different fronts here. Now the trade deadline is what, February 5th?
February 5th.
Right. So we have literally a week. If Giannis is going to be moved soon for the season, it will have to be next week. By next week, I think Thursday. So we'll see how that plays out. But it is now official. Yeah, not it was a trade request, but Giannis, the Bucks rather, are taking offers at this point for Giannis. You see that news yesterday, Greg. What is your first thought goes to your mind?
My first thought is that he's probably going to be moved by the trade deadline. I think that when they say or the offseason, I think that's Milwaukee speak for if we don't get the offer we want. Like, they don't want to be lowballed. So they have the asset. So they're not going to say we have to move him by the deadline, and because then teams are just going to give them bad offers and say take the best bad offer. So they're going to threaten with, hey, if you don't give us what we want, we're going to hold you out until the offseason or beyond. So they're trying to portray this as them being in the driver's seat. I think that they're going to move him by the deadline because...
You think so?
Yeah, because a lot of it is going to be contractual. Like, he can do the Supermax extension with his new team if he's moved by the deadline, whereas he can't do that if he's traded in the summer. And just with the relationship they've had over the years, I just think that it seems like that's something that they would do for him, given what he's done for them. Now, granted, what he's done for them is basically put them in this terrible hole. I mean, he's been a de facto GM for 6-7 years. They've done everything that he's wanted. And even this year, his body language wasn't great. His effort wasn't great in games. I mean, when he comes out after the game and says, I have a strained calf and it's probably 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, that just, to me, I don't even know if that stuff's real, to be honest with you.
So you're saying that you think that he may be embellishing these injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's not sore, that he's not banged up, but he might be saying that, for how banged up I am, it's not worth putting it on the line. Let's say he were playing for Miami tomorrow. He'd probably be, maybe he'd be in the lineup. I don't know. I mean, that's just conjecture. But I mean, the point is, I don't think that he's given them an MVP effort that I would have thought that he was capable of. And if that swings at 3 or 4 games in one direction, they could be where Orlando is, right? Could they be in 9 or 8 looking at trading for someone else and moving into like 6 or 7?
Yeah,
we'll never know. We'll never know, I guess. But you'd imagine that he's going to want to go to a team where he's not, I don't want to say not the alpha, but where he's got some help. So that's why you're seeing Minnesota being thrown out there, why you're seeing Golden State being thrown out there.
Yeah, you mentioned that. You mentioned Miami, Minnesota.
Miami and the Knicks. I mean, those are all the teams that Shams reported, mainly because, there's a Brunson in New York. There's a Bam in Miami. Like, there's guys that can take some of the pressure off of him. And it seems like he was getting tired of doing the heavy lifting. So I think any team that you're looking at, if you're doing trades with other teams beyond those 4, where is he going to go where he's going to have assistance? So, I mean, like, you hear Atlanta's name being mentioned. And I mean, because there'd be Jalen Johnson there. Again, I don't know a lot of these teams are perfect fits.
True.
I think Minnesota and Golden State are, I mean, those 4 teams are perfect fits in a sense, depending on what they have to give up. So, I mean, if Miami can keep some of their shooting, like if they can keep Tyler Hero in that deal, then it makes a little more sense because now you can, play Bam and Giannis off each other and you still have a threat from the outside who can shoot 40% from three. But if Hero's going in the deal and you're just left with Bam and Giannis, it's like, where are you getting shooting from?
So let's play hypothetical real quick. Now that we know it's official. The 4 teams you mentioned, Heat, Knicks, Wolves, Warriors. Let's say they make a move right now. Okay, I'm going to go on one first. Let's go to the Heat first, my favorite team. Let's say the Heat make this move before Thursday, and they acquire Giannis. In the 1 year, just this season alone, what does that do for the Heat? Like, or do you think they are now top contender with Giannis on that lineup right now, currently constructed?
No. Granted, I don't know that any of these teams are going to be a title contender.
Really? So okay. So let me rephrase the question. Okay. So the Heat, for example, because I'm gonna go each team here. What is their ceiling right now with Giannis in the lineup right now?
3 or 4 in the East.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I guess puts them, I guess it puts them in the discussion, but based on where they are now in the standings, they're gonna have to make up a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say Giannis comes back after the All-Star break and you have, 2 months of him playing. Let's say you get to 6, you're still going to need to go on the road to play the Celtics, let's say in the first round, not going to be easy. Then, maybe you're playing the Knicks on the road, not going to be easy. Then you play the Pistons on the road, not going to be easy. So I mean, It's like there's a long way to go. And you look at every one of these teams, like I guess the best way to do this is to start thinking of packages that make sense. Right. And then what's left over. I think Miami has probably got the most attractive package that still leaves them with some players. Yeah. Assuming that they're getting rid of their picks and their swaps and all that.
Yeah, Tyler Hero could be part of that deal possibly.
Well, maybe. I mean, Khalil Ware has to be part of the deal, or else.
Yeah. You can't work around that. And honestly, there's some weird shit going on with him and the Heat because last night he played only 7 minutes in the loss to Orlando. That's a little weird. Like a lot of Heat fans get a little frustrated with Spo lately because of the way they've been using him. Yeah. I'll leave it to Spo and I mean, look, he's one of the best coaches in basketball. I'll trust him, but I'm not going to sit there and also say that I'm not uncomfortable with it because it's been kind of weird. Let's apply now to the same thing, the Knicks. So obviously the Heat, I guess we'll say ceiling 3-4, maybe second round in the East, most likely. Okay. Now let's apply to the Knicks now. The Knicks get Giannis. Let's say, because obviously if they get Giannis, most likely Cat will be in that deal. Yeah. Where's their ceiling?
Well, you see the rumors about the way that trade would play out. So you've seen, and again, I don't know how accurate this is, but it would make sense in terms of like a 3-team deal involving Portland. Right. With Bridges going to Portland, some of Milwaukee's picks that went in the Jrue Holiday deal going back to them, and then Cat going to Milwaukee. So, in that structure, you'd have the Knicks left with Brunson, Jrue Holiday, OG Anunoby, Giannis, and Mitchell Robinson, and Josh Hart's still there too. Right. I mean, that's pretty formidable. You eliminate the issue that you have with Cat and Brunson, where you can't have both of them on the floor, or if you do, you're going to struggle defensively. So that makes you a much better defensive team. You can still run the 2-man game with, Giannis and Brunson. Like, I think they would have the highest ceiling if they could make that deal work. But I mean, does Portland have any interest in giving up 2 picks for Mikal Bridges, and they're giving up Jrue Holiday? Now, granted, Jrue Holiday is a lot older. So, I mean, you're talking about he's 7 or 8 years older. So
he'll be a buffer for Jaylen.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. But I mean, that would provide defense in the backcourt, and that would help the Knicks.
And good leadership.
I think if the Knicks could swing something like that, that would definitely put them probably in the driver's seat. But I mean, that's a big if. I mean, you need multiple teams to agree to that. And it also depends on what Milwaukee's motivation is. When you look at Miami, if they want to just strip it down to the studs and say, we're going to take back Andrew Wiggins, and then we're going to send him to like Golden State, get a 1st-round pick. We're going to walk away from this with 3 or 4 firsts, 3 swaps, Khalil Ware, Yakachonis, maybe Jaime Jaquez. Like if they want to go really young in that sense, and then they can start looking at trading Miles Turner and guys like that. Like those are options. Or they could look at it and say, let's just put Cat next to Turner, and we can still be somewhat competitive, depending on what else they pull in. Let's say that they do the trade for OG Anunoby and Cat, and that's the only way it gets done. Like if you were to tell me that they'd have Ryan Rollins, OG Anunoby, Cat, and Turner, like that's not terrible. You're not getting the picks. That's a Band-Aid designed to keep the seats somewhat full. But I mean, it's not horrible. It probably makes them better than what they're putting on the floor now. So it all depends on what their motivation is in moving him, both short and long term.
So I would go ahead and say the Knicks, obviously, ceiling still going to the finals. I don't know. Well, maybe it depends. A Giannis trade could make them like. I would still take San Antonio. Well, not San Antonio, but necessarily, but I would still take OKC over them in the finals. I'll still take Denver in the finals, and I might still take San Antonio. But I think it'd be a lot more competitive with Giannis on the roster as opposed to Cat. And not for nothing, they won 4 in a row now since that little slump they went on a week ago rather. So maybe things will cool off a little bit now. We'll see. But the Knicks are interesting here. Now, this team is interesting too also because I think they could use a second star also themselves. The Timberwolves were also mentioned in this also as well. You got Anthony Edwards obviously doing his thing. And they have good pieces there, obviously. They've been to the conference finals in the West 2 years in a row. So they're building something there too also. But I don't think anyone looks at the Wolves as one of the top 4 teams in the Western Conference when all said and done. I think most people are going to say OKC's better, Denver's better, Houston's better, and obviously San Antonio's better at this point now. But does Giannis change that direction now with him going that roster?
Well, Minnesota with Edwards and Giannis would immediately become, the top 2-man pairing in the league. But then the question becomes who's left? What's left there? Because you imagine that McDaniels has to go in the deal because he's young, can defend, and he's their best trade chip that's not Anthony Edwards. And then you're probably going to have to get rid of Gobert or Naz Reid. And then, and then outside of that, they don't really have any picks to trade. So, I mean, I don't know what that does for Milwaukee unless you're flipping those guys to third teams and walking away. Can you trade McDaniels to Portland and get your picks back? Can you move him to Atlanta and get their first back this year? I think in any kind of those deals, you're trying to find a way in which Milwaukee can come back with some of their own draft picks. Kind of like when the Nets made that move and they traded Mikal Bridges, but then they also did the trade with Houston to get their own picks back so that they could tank and then have some control over where they pick. I mean, obviously it's a lottery, but when you get Knicks first round picks in years that they're projected to go to the finals, those aren't valuable first round picks. So you're just at the mercy of another team. At least if Milwaukee gets their own picks back, they can say, we're just going to play a super young lineup. We're going to, let's say with this year's pick, they have a swap with Atlanta. So Atlanta, let's say, gets the second pick and Milwaukee winds up with the 8th pick. You take Darius Acuff out of Arkansas. Like, okay, we're going to start him. We're going to play him all year. We're going to take our lumps. And if we can somehow get one of our picks back in this deal, now all of a sudden we can get a top pick next year or maybe the year after.
Right.
There's a way to do that if you're playing young to where you can control somewhat where you fall in the lottery. You can cap your ceiling, basically. So, I mean, the Bucks next year might finish with, the worst record or the second worst record, then they cap where they can pick at 5 or 6, assuming they're getting a pick back. If they don't get any picks back, then you're just at the mercy of what Golden State does in 5 years.
That's a big point too, also, because you get Giannis in Minnesota. Yeah, it's a great move. Probably the 2 best 2-man, guys in the league. But who are you giving up to get it? Like, obviously, I see a world where in the conference finals again with Giannis, but I still don't think you'd be OKC. Denver's still probably a wash at best, especially if you lose a Gobert that help with Jokic. There's some risk there, obviously, getting Giannis and trying to keep as much as you can without losing everything. So that's definitely an interesting situation there as well.
There's a reason why these trades really work. in terms of success. I mean, look at Phoenix, look at the Nets when they had Durant and Harden and all those guys. Like, it rarely works when you go for those guys, and especially in the case of Phoenix taking Durant back, because you have to gut your roster so much to get the star that it's like what's left. Like, OKC and Denver have not had to gut anything. So, I mean, that's why they're the prohibitive favorites. Same thing with San Antonio. The reason why San Antonio doesn't really make sense is because, like, if you're okay, maybe you'll give up Harper, but then you still need to make the salaries work, and you're giving up Keldon Johnson, who's the sixth man of the year, and Harrison Barnes, who's better in leadership and shooting.
There are people. I mean, we talked about this for example, San Antonio. We talked about this in the podcast a couple months ago, and I put a clip out back in December on TikTok, and there were people criticizing us for our position on this, because I have the same idea that it doesn't behoove San Antonio to do this at this point, because you actually shorten your window. Because
you don't want to shorten your window.
Why would you do that? Like, you're already where Giannis would have taken you anyway. So why would you want to make that move when you already arrived at the place for lesser salaries and a lot larger leash of time?
And also, you kind of want to wait out some of these other teams, like OKC. Shea will age out a little bit, not to say that he's going to become old.
He's still 20, like 27, right?
28. Yeah, but I mean, all these guys are in their early 20s. Wembanyama's 23, Castle's like 21 or 22, Harper's 20. So, I mean, you've got like a 5-6 year head start on a lot of these other teams. So, I mean, to trade away these assets just to put yourself at the same place that OKC and Denver currently are, and you're gutting your depth and your assets to do so, to where you can't make other moves, it's just a short-sighted move. It's not guaranteed to work. If it were guaranteed to work, then I'd say go for it. But, with their luck, they make that trade, and then either Giannis or Wemby gets hurt, and now all of a sudden you're just a 5 or a 6 seed, and you're just an average team getting bounced in the first or the second round, when you had this runway for 10 to 12 years by having Castle, having Harper. And I mean, just an aside, like, Harper has not played well for them, but it's also hard to throw a rookie into like a team that is now competing for a championship, and he's got to grow and also fill a role at the same time. If he were on the Wizards, he would have carte blanche to take 20 shots a game, 10 of them maybe.
Yeah, ask Jordan Poole last year.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like, it's not a good comparison to compare Harper to some of these other rookies, because some of these other rookies have much more of a runway to take shots and to make mistakes, whereas he's just a role player, like a Luke Cornett is to them, because their goal is to win games, not to develop players.
Right. I agree. Now, the team, in my opinion, that makes the most sense to make this move outside Miami because of the assets is the Warriors, because, the priority here is trying to extend Steph Curry's peak as much as possible. He's still a top 10 player in the league right now, even with everything going on with Golden State. And then with the Jimmy Butler situation, of course, and we discussed on the show last week with the Butler situation, that I laid out 4 options, what the Warriors can do. And one option B, I said, was going after Giannis and trying to dump that Butler contract to Milwaukee's expiring deal next year, which makes more sense. You now open another 2-year-ish window, 3-year window with Steph and Giannis as the 2-man crew. I think for Golden State, it does behoove them to try this. They have no choice. This is one of the last options they have to keep Curry whole, to win titles anyway.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing that Milwaukee's been doing by throwing good money after bad to try and extend Giannis's window in Milwaukee. Golden State would be doing the same thing, but this would be like their last move. Now, granted, they can trade a lot. They have all their picks to trade.
Kuminga's there to trade away.
I don't know that any of those players are attractive, but I guess what you're doing is you're shorting the Warriors and saying, we think that in 2030, when Curry isn't viable anymore and Giannis is, over the hill and all that, like, those picks have potential to be lottery picks. So in 2032, in 2030, and if you're doing a swap in 2031, let's say,
I think it's a safe bet. I think it's a safe bet for lottery picks, honestly.
Yeah, those picks have value since they won't have any room to improve their roster, because they would have traded all their picks away, and those guys will have retired or not be as effective as they are now, let's say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's some attraction there. The only issue is that after you make that trade and you're just left with Giannis, Draymond, and Curry, and not really any depth, like, where does that put you in a Western Conference that has a Denver team that's loaded, an OKC team that's loaded, a San Antonio team that's loaded. Those are tough questions that they're going to have to ask. But if the goal is just to try and extend Curry's, as a thank you to him, kind of like what Milwaukee's done for Giannis, then that would make sense, and that would be a very attractive package.
No, you said he will be moving within the week. Having said that, is there any predictions? Does Greg have his crystal ball out? Where's he going?
My guess would be that he goes to Miami.
Really?
Yeah. The reason why I say that is because I feel like the young players and the picks, and also they could take some of the players maybe and move them for more picks. So, could you take a Wiggins and move him to
another contender
or to another contender, and then open up an asset there, or does that open up more tradable firsts for Miami by moving another player? I just think because they've got young players that are somewhat appealing, that's the most likely. And also, I think Giannis would probably want to remain in the Eastern Conference, just because if he goes to the West, how competitive
it's hard to win a title there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he might want to go to Minnesota and play with Anthony Edwards. I just don't know what's left after you get there. I mean, I have to imagine that he's smart enough to know that if his goal is to compete for a title this year, you have to see what's left with the roster. I read a story the other day that Milwaukee was trying to convince him to take this as a gap year for the Bucks, saying, look, basically what they're doing now, like, we're going to be bad, we're going to get our pick, and then we're going to have 3 tradable firsts come next offseason that we can then add around you. So we'll have Miles Turner, we'll have Giannis, and then we'll have these 3 firsts that we might be able to go get a star. Or we can draft a player and then use those 2 picks in a swap to go out and get a player. So we can kind of overhaul the roster a little bit, but you just need a little patience. And he didn't have any interest at his age, at 31 years old, in taking a gap.
Can you really blame him?
Not really, but I mean, wherever he goes, they're probably not going to be the favorite anyway. Now, granted, he'll still be able to compete, which is what he wants, but I don't know where that is going to put his new team. Because I don't see Milwaukee taking a bad deal just to do him a favor. I mean, they're going to try and get everything they possibly can, which is why, again, if you look at Miami, they're going to want Ware, they're going to want Jaquez, Wiggins, so they can move Wiggins for something else. They're going to want Yakachonis. They're going to want everything possible that they have to offer. So, like, all your assets are coming in this trade, essentially.
Yeah, I know as a Heat fan, I don't want them to get rid of Rare, and I say that, but I know it's going to require that at some point. So I'm not going to front on that. But it is what it is. We'll see how it plays out. Obviously, next Thursday we'll likely be here recording, most likely, maybe after the deadline's over, and we'll react to everything, of course. So we'll catch them on that. All right. While we were gone last week, though, we one thing I forgot to mention, while we were recording last week, is that they announced the NBA All-Star roster for this year. Now, this is the first year they're doing the NBA versus the world, right?
Yep.
All right, so the roster right now as follows. Right now in the Eastern Conference, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, you have Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, and Cade Cunningham as your Eastern Conference roster. In the West right now, currently you have Steph Curry, SGA, Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic. Now, okay, so NBA versus the world. So technically, Giannis will be NBA, not the world, right? It'll be world players outside that don't play in the NBA, not necessarily world players that are in the NBA, right?
No, they're going to be taking players. Like, this is just like a base of where the players are coming from. But then I think Giannis will be on the world roster, and Luka will be on the world roster, and then Cade and Maxey and
Brunson and
whatnot, those guys. Yeah, I think that's the way that they're going to try and do that. But I mean, again, the All-Star game, I'm more interested in who makes the team versus the game itself.
Me too.
I'm more interested in the accolade more so than how they separate the players and play the game, because the game is still going to be a half-hearted exhibition.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm more bothered by the NBA All-Star game structure than I am with the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl, like the Pro Bowl, you can't. There's nothing you do about it. There's nothing you do about it. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to put my body on risk to get hurt in a game that doesn't matter, especially in that sport. So leave it as is. I mean, whatever we're gonna do, that's fine. The NBA, the only issue with the NBA All-Star game is that no one takes it seriously. That's the only issue with it. Make them take it seriously.
I guess it's the same thing like the NFL. You don't want to see a guy pop an Achilles in the All-Star game. So I mean, no matter what sport you play, I feel like there's always going to be some level of giving
Yes,
70.
correct. But you can watch a 1992 All-Star game, Greg, and watch a 2018 All-Star game, and yes, back then was still loosey goosey, and they didn't play incredible defense. But there was a big difference in the seriousness of the game versus now. Like, you're taking threes from half court out regularly? No, not that crap.
Yeah, I mean, the game has changed, though, in the sense that, when Jordan played and Barkley played and those guys were in these games, the money wasn't nearly what it was. So I feel like teams, it's not just the players, the teams look at these guys as assets and commodities that like we can't afford to have this $1 billion. Like, let's say Giannis gets hurt and he's going to play the next 5 years in Milwaukee. Like, if he pops his Achilles, like Milwaukee loses in revenue, they lose in, TV ratings, they lose in all sorts of stuff. Whereas, because he's making, he might sign a $300 million extension, whereas Barkley was making $5 million back then. Not that, the salary cap was still what it was, but I just think there's so much invested in these guys that neither they nor the teams want to see them in harm's way.
Yeah.
So the only game really I feel like that you can play without real risk of getting hurt is Major League Baseball.
Did you see the Rising Stars rosters?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I don't have it up, but I've seen it.
I'm right here. Like, you have Team Mello, Cooper Flag, Stefan Castle, Jeremiah Fayers, Murray Boyles from Toronto, Reed Shepard from Houston, Dylan Harper, you just mentioned earlier, from the Spurs, and Donovan Clingan from the Blazers.
Well,
Coach by Carmelo Anthony, of course. Go ahead.
The freshman team, the rookie team, is basically the top 12 picks minus Ace Bailey and Kamon Malwatch from Phoenix.
Yeah, Team Mac is McGrady has Con Kniffel, Trey Johnson, AJ Mitchell, Cam Spencer, Khalil Ware, Alex Sarr, and Jalen Tyson. And then Team Vince, which makes up of Vince Carter, of course, BJ Edgecombe, Keyshawn George, Igor Demon, Jalen Wells, Derek Queen, Mattis Buzelis, and Cedric Coward. So,
yeah,
go ahead.
The basketball quality will probably be better in those games than for the actual game, to be honest with you. And a lot of that's because this gives those players a chance to stand out on a national stage.
Showcase, yeah.
Yeah, they can showcase themselves, whereas the actual NBA All-Star game, everybody already knows who Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry are. So
right, and Austin Rivers has a bunch of G Leaguers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, there is a G League contingent too. So
yeah. So I mean, I may watch it this year actually, the Rising Stars game.
Yeah, I mean, the curiosity for me really at this point is who the reserves are going to be. I think that the starters were relatively easy. I mean, like, a bunch of guys I think are locks. Like for the East, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Johnson, Scotty Barnes. But then, how do you fill out the rest of the roster? I mean, you're probably looking at 5 to 7 guys vying for 3 or 4 spots.
Are you surprised LeBron didn't get a starter, even though he's LeBron James?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, I guess,
that
the fans didn't vote him in. But I mean, to be honest, like when I made my list of guys who should be on the reserves, I think he should be in there. Of his own merit. Like, he's averaging 22, 7, and 6 and shooting 50% from the field, and the Lakers are 28 and 18.
And how old is he again?
Over 40. He's 41.
He's 41. Again, there's no precedent for this stuff.
Yeah.
There's none. Just saying.
But his numbers, like whether he's 25 or whether he's 35 or whether he's 45, his numbers warrant him being there.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, like Denny Avdia will probably make the game too, but like his record isn't nearly as good as what LeBron's is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Denny Avdia is putting up a lot of stats, but I mean, LeBron, without Austin Reeves there for much of the season, has had to carry a pretty big load to get them to 28 and 18.
Right. One I want to break with you, Will. But before we get there, announcing the reserves tonight, right?
Sunday maybe.
Oh, Sunday?
Maybe. I'm not 100% sure when they announced the reserves. I mean, like I have my thoughts on who should be
It has
listed,
to be,
but I'm
it has to be soon because I mean, the game's in 2 weeks.
yeah, yeah.
So I imagine it's today. It has to be today or
It's
next
either
48
today
hours.
or by the weekend.
No further than Sunday. It
Yeah.
can't be much longer than that. All right. I want to bring up a topic that started out with my family, with my brother and my cousins on a text exchange we had. And he brought up the idea, okay, because Jaylen Brown's had a phenomenal year, MVP candidate, the whole nine. The Celtics have definitely overperformed for what we all thought they'd be this year. And he brought up the idea, the topic of if you swapped Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, let's say Jayson Tatum is the one that's playing healthy, and Jaylen Brown got hurt. He said that he doesn't think the Celtics would be as good with Tatum being the leader, being the guy without Brown. He thinks this is more of a confirmation that Jaylen Brown is actually the better player. And he also used the fact that he won the NBA Finals MVP 2 years ago on top of that over Tatum as his biggest clue. I don't know if I can go fully there yet because I get the demeanor thing. Like, obviously, the demeanor is much more in Brown's court. Like, he's much more, in comparison to Tatum, aggressive and whatnot. And Tatum's a little more docile, if you will. You know, what I've been saying for like years in this podcast. Tatum's a top 5-ish player in the league, but he doesn't have the dog in him. That's that's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if I can go fully there with Tatum being, the Celtics being much worse. Tatum as a guy versus Jaylen Brown. I'll give it a wash at best. Where do you stand on this argument?
I mean, Boston would still be a playoff team. I don't want to say where they are now, but I mean, I still think they'd be in the top 6 or 7 seeds. It's tough because I feel like Jaylen Brown maybe is more valuable, whereas Jayson Tatum is more skilled, if that makes sense. So the style that Brown plays, I think, is more conducive to getting the rest of his team going because they want to shoot a lot of threes, and he's a guy that wants to get downhill and go to the rim. I mean, he'll take his jumpers too, don't get me wrong, but like he's collapsing the defense and getting the ball out to a Derek White, to a Peyton Pritchard, to a Sam Hauser, whereas Jayson Tatum is the guy outside who's getting the ball. So, I mean, the argument could be made that Tatum is the better shooter. I'd rather have him shooting free throws. I'd rather have him handling the ball. I don't think Jaylen Brown is nearly as good a ball handler. Obviously, Jayson Tatum's a little bigger, so he can defend a few more positions. And I think his shot is a little more reliable. His jump shot, I mean, obviously, Jaylen Brown's shooting 50% from the field this year, which is incredible. But I think a lot of that, too, is also in and around the rim, around the paint. So it's not
right. Better, more efficient shooting.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that, and look, it goes back to the finals. Maybe he is the more valuable player. That's Brown, but Tatum is the more skilled player. I think it would be close, but I think maybe they are a little better if you have to choose one over the other. But I mean, I wouldn't want to choose either. I want both of them.
Yeah. So Jaylen Brown might really be a top 10 player in the league now. We just didn't know it until this year.
Yeah, that's quite possible just because he didn't have the opportunity to show that. But I also should note that we've talked about Tatum coming back. I mean, I saw a report that he's considering sitting out the year. Which I
think Boston I think the team wants him to sit out the year. Yes, but the fans and he himself wants to come back this year and try to make a run for it.
Yeah, but I think that he is considering sitting out, which I think would be the smart play because there's no sense in throwing away the next 8 years of what could be still a Hall of Fame career over, I don't know that they're winning a title anyway if he comes back, not unless they're making trades to then bring him back into the fold. If they're going out and adding a Daniel Gafford and Nick Claxton at center and then bringing him back, maybe we can talk. Not that Neemias Queta hasn't had a great year, but I just don't know that they're going to be able to level up with some of the teams that they're going to face in the East, and certainly not the West.
The thing is, the temptation is, I don't blame them. The temptation is too saucy because you got a weaker East this year. Your team is overperforming without you now, and you just add you to the roster. You get revenge on New York. Detroit's probably the only big stop team in front of you. Yeah, you may not win the NBA Finals because of the other teams in the West, but I would say if Boston gets to the Finals and Tatum gets back, that's a big story.
Yeah. Although We've been consistent. I've been consistent saying that I would not bring him back. I think he's too valuable to.
I wouldn't either.
But I've always thought that he was going to come back, but I just personally wouldn't do it.
Well, we'll see. I mean, what was the report from? Is this like a rumor or something that from a legit like?
I mean, I was on Twitter and scrolling around, so I mean, it wasn't from some made up account, but it's from an aggregator. So I mean,
I think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, let me see if I can find it real quick.
I think we'll know more about that situation after the All-Star break. Because I think because right now Boston is number 2 number 3 in the East right now currently, but they're only literally a game behind. No, they're tied for number 2 in the East with New York.
They're tied with the Knicks right now. They sit in 3rd, and actually the report is from Chris Haynes. So I mean,
that's legit. That's legit.
Yeah, that's a legit thing.
Chris Haynes, Brian Windhorst, Legler, you name it, those guys, all legit guys.
Yeah, so the report was that Jayson Tatum is reevaluating his situation and is now considering sitting out the entire season, but a final decision is yet to be determined. So, I mean, that doesn't really answer anything, but it does say that that's at least on the table.
Well, we shall see. Something definitely watch it second half of the year, definitely. All right, before we get out of here, we haven't done this in a long time. I wanted you to do your Power 5. We have 5 best teams in the league currently, as we are now, as I said earlier, the dog days of the NBA season. So let's get a lay of the land. What is your we're going to order number 5, your 5th best team in the league right now currently, and why?
I'm going to go with the Knicks. I mean, they're 2nd in the East. I think that they've stabilized a little bit here. They've put a couple good performances in a row together. Played a good Toronto team on a back-to-back last night, going a 27-4 run. But there's an asterisk with this just because we don't know what the team's going to look like on February 5th. So, I mean, they're a team that's desperately trying to get into those Giannis sweepstakes too. So, I mean, a lot could change there. But if we're just going based off of today and where this collection of players stands, I'm going to put them at 5. And I think that if you're comparing to the West, knowing that the West is deeper, given the injuries and the lack of shooting that Houston has, I think that I would slightly lean the Knicks over Houston.
Let me ask you a question. If they weren't on this 4-game winning streak, would you still put them on 5?
No, but that's like saying if Boston hadn't won all these games, would we be talking about Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum? So I mean, the game last night against Toronto, like that's a good quality win. So I mean, it is. I didn't think that they were going to be lousy all season long after winning the NBA Cup. I mean, they've shown that they can beat a good San Antonio team with stakes. So, I mean,
I'm not gonna lie though, I'm still surprised for number 5, even with the winning streak. That's why I asked that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that they're one of the 2 favorites to come out of the East, and I think I'd slide them ahead of Houston. Maybe I don't feel great about it, but maybe I feel a little better about them than Houston.
Although we'll say, keep on Cleveland though, 1-5 in a row, 8 last 10.
True.
I said, keep on the Cavaliers. They're getting
at
the right time.
But the thing with them is that they just need to get healthy, and I don't know that they're ever going to get healthy.
That's true. I think Strus is done. I think you and I agree Strus is done.
I think that if you were to guarantee me that on the first day of the playoffs that they were 100% healthy, they would be my pick to come out of the East. But
wow, okay.
But I can't do that. I mean, I don't know that Darius Garland is going to be healthy at any point this year. I don't know that Strus is going to be healthy at any point.
Didn't Mobley get hurt on night too also? And
Mobley's out for at least a week with a calf strain, but it's probably like right after All-Star break is when he comes back.
Must get out anyway.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, he's going to miss 3 weeks. So, I mean, again, they just can't stay healthy. Jalen Tyson, shout out to him. It's been a revelation for them. It's amazing that you go into the season talking about their big 4 guys, and the guy who's outside of Mitchell, who's been most impressive, has been a second-year player that most people don't even know who he is.
Yeah. All right, number 4, Greg. Who's your 4th best team in the league currently?
Detroit Pistons. They've been the best team consistently throughout the East. I don't think that the Pistons are better than any of the top teams in the West.
Okay.
So I mean, by default, I'm slotting them into 4th, and also I think that they have the resources to make a trade that doesn't dramatically alter their roster, whereas like the Knicks would have to like overhaul their roster to make the kind of move they want to make. Like when we're talking about that Giannis trade, they've got to move Bridges, they've got to move Deuce McBride, they've got to move Cat. Like, there's a lot of, and you've got to involve 3 teams, maybe 4 teams. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to that. Detroit has all their assets, all their picks. They could just easily say, we're going to trade Ivy, Tobias Harris, and a pick or 2 and go out and get whomever. Like Michael Porter Jr., we can just slot him into Tobias Harris's slot. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying that they have the resources to do that, whereas the Knicks don't have those picks that they can just go out and slide someone into a salary slot.
What impressed me about this Pistons team so far this year is they started hot, and you're thinking, this is great, but can they sustain this? Well, went out in January, and they're sustaining it, and one could argue getting stronger.
Yeah, I mean, they just beat the heck out of you. I mean, Isaiah Stewart, if you want to put him in Defensive Player of the Year candidacy, Sixth Man of the Year candidacy, I mean, he's been really good. Jalen Duren, I think, should be an All-Star this year. I think you got to give Detroit 2 All-Stars in addition to Cade, just with how dominant they've been in the East. He's probably the guy at that point. I mean, he's really developed. They're just one shooter away, basically. They have Duncan Robinson, but I mean, like one 3-and-D quality shooter.
Yeah.
If they could go out and get a Trey Murphy, even if it took 3 first-round picks from Tobias Harris and Ivy, I think that changes the landscape for them. I'm not saying that it's possible, just saying that that's the kind of move that you're keeping your other 4 starters and you're just swapping out Murphy for Tobias Harris. I think that changes the equation for them a bit.
Right. All right. Greg, your number 3 team right now in the league currently.
San Antonio,
okay.
Which I never would have expected prior to the year. But look, they showed last night in their win over the Rockets. I mean, as long as Wemby's healthy, I mean, they're a threat to beat anybody. I don't know if they can beat the 2 teams above them in a long series. But, I mean, they've got the pieces now, surprisingly, which I wouldn't have thought prior to the year. But if Wemby's healthy and you've got all these guards that can play, and Keldon Johnson is playing like a 6th Man of the Year, they're strong and they're coached well and they're competitive. And I think that they're better than any team in the East. If they were in the East, I'd have them as the best team in the East.
Wow. Okay. All right, Greg, number 2 in Power Poll.
This isn't to say where I think it's going to finish. I mean, I said before the year I thought this team was going to win the title, and I still think they could win the title, but I have Denver at number 2.
Okay.
They've been pretty good without Jokic.
It's amazing, by the way, how good they've been without Jokic.
I want to say they're 9-6. They narrowly lost the game to the Pistons the other night by 2. And the only real reason they lost was because Jamal Murray had a chance to tie the game with 3 free throws to send it to overtime. He missed the second and then had to intentionally miss the third. So that game was a 2-point difference. So they've been very competitive, and I think honestly that's going to make them better for it in the long run.
Yep, I agree with that 100%.
Johnson, no Christian Brown, but you find out that Peyton Watson is I don't want to say an all-star caliber player, but he's a guy that can go out and get you 25 points on a given night. They can rely on him, and they've learned that come playoff time, he's a guy that they can rely on. Jalen Pickett, same thing. So, I mean, they've learned about some of these other guys that I don't think would have gotten any sort of opportunity otherwise. So when Jokic comes back, when Cam Johnson comes back, when Brown is finally healthy. I mean, when Brown's finally healthy, you could still have Peyton Watson playing above him. I think Watson at this point is a better player than Christian Brown. So I think that's where you've learned something and where they will benefit. And look, they were an Aaron Gordon hamstring away from being better than OKC last year, and now they're a much better, deeper team this year. So, but they've got to show that they can be healthy, and they've got to get to that point. OKC has done it. Denver hasn't done it with this setup, and Aaron Gordon's hurt again. So he hurt his hamstring again. So now you're still dealing with injuries to Brown, injuries to Gordon. Jokic, again, they said he might come back at the end of January.
We'll hear.
And they said he'd be reevaluated in a week. I always thought that it would be after the All-Star break, which means that he's not going to be eligible.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Awards, but I mean that it makes sense to just give him the added time because they've done well enough in his absence. It's not like they've gone 3-12; they've gone 9-6. So it's good enough to where they can wait him out.
Not that I disagree with the rule. I actually love the rule of having a certain amount of games to play before for awards. But do you think 65 may be a little too low? Maybe move to 60.
62 maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a margin thing. I mean,
but still, I don't know that a guy who's missing a quarter of the season should be winning that award anyway. Which is
I agree, but it's so weird that
Which I think SGA is probably going to win the award again because he's probably going to play like 75 or 76 games.
Yeah, I mean, but Jokic should be in the conversation, and we all agree with that. And Wemby might lose the award for the same reason too, also.
Yeah, that's
we know damn well he deserves the defensive player of the year probably.
Sure.
So it's weird. No, again, the spirit of the rule, absolutely love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. But maybe it's the 1 year thing, I guess. So you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just coincidental that both Wemby and Jokic have been out sitting a long time and may not be able to get the award because of the money games missed. But here's what it is. All right, number one should be pretty easy.
Yep. OKC. I mean, they've shown some flaws along the way, but that could just be boredom. But the reality is, they're still the best team in the best conference, and they've got the pedigree. They're coming off a championship. They don't have anything to prove. They've already shown that they have a championship medal. So I think that when the playoffs come, a lot of these guys that are cycling in and out of the lineup, I think they'll all be playing. So I mean, I think that some of this slippage is just because it's a long season. Like you said earlier, it's the dog days of the season. Would I like to see them get another shooter? Sure. But I still think as is, their defense is just so dominant that, and they've got so much depth. I mean, again, AJ Mitchell's a guy that no one was talking about a year ago, and now he's, in the Rising Stars game. So, I mean, they've got players left and right. So, their depth, their defense, their pedigree, their record, I think all that lines up to number one. But I could still see Denver beating them in a series in the playoffs. So,
Joey almost a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's been out most of the year. He missed the first 20-something games of the year. He's missed the last probably 5 or 6 as of late, and they're still this good.
And when
that's testament to the Thunder how good they are in SGA.
And when he came back, he wasn't exactly the same player.
No, he wasn't that good. He was okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he was struggling, and I don't know if it was the injury trying to come back too soon. But yeah, they need to get healthy for the playoffs. But my guess is that they will. My guess is that Hartenstein and Williams and Caruso on the first day of the playoffs, I think they'll all be out there.
I think most likely. I think it's. I wouldn't be shocked if they keep them out at least till freaking late February, early March. Honestly, just to kind of rest them up.
Yeah. No, I mean they have the luxury of doing that.
Yeah, and right now they have a fairly comfortable lead in the West right now. I think it's 6 games ahead of Spurs and the Nuggets or something like that. So why not take a chance? So. Yeah. But anyway, Greg, anything you want to plug?
No, it's the trade deadline. Looking forward to it. We'll see. We'll know a lot about what some of the futures of these teams look like a week from now. So
we'll probably do next week because if indeed it is Thursday, well, it is Thursday, and typically the last it ends at 3:00. So if once we can record right after it's over to kind of see anything if anything significant happens, of course.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. So and we might see something before then too. So
exactly. If Giannis happens, we got to do it in the Emergency podcast on that.
Yeah,
or something next year. So anyway, follow Greg on X at Hrinya NBA. That's GHRINYA.
Correct.
Yes, I got it right. Yes. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied for a second there. Of course, the NBA show and part of the Emergency podcast. Follow me on X as well too at eachperson7. Until next week, I'll keep an eye on those Twitters and social medias because this could be a very, very active trade deadline. So look out for that. But until next time.